What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 6 Millionaire Maker.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay guys, this is for the Millionaire Maker slate, which is the Sunday main slate at 1 p.m. Oh, and stick around to the very end of this video. After I show you all my picks in the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll show you these players in DraftKings and in FanDuel, the Millionaire Maker slates. There'll be 2 spots open that you have to fill in, but you'll have a great Millionaire Maker core. Okay guys, NFL Week 6, let's take a look at the quarterback position. My Millionaire Maker quarterback for Week 6 is Ben Roethlisberger from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Cleveland Browns, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger has averaged 21.2 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 3.3 rush attempts per game. He's only going to be about 2% owned here, projected at 22.9 fantasy points here in Week 6. He's $6,700 DraftKings salary and $900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game, 51 points scored in this game, with the Pittsburgh Steelers favored by 3.5. Big Ben has been consistent this year, scoring near 20 fantasy points or more almost every single game. Now he's got a fantastic matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, so I like Ben Roethlisberger here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. My Millionaire Maker running back is Alexander Madison from the Minnesota Vikings playing the Atlanta Falcons, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Alexander Madison, he's coming in for the injured Dalvin Cook, and he's going to be less than 1% owned here. It looks like his salary was priced up way too high, but I like the fact that no one's going to play this guy. But when he came in for Dalvin Cook, he got 20 rush attempts and 3 pass targets and scored 20 fantasy points. Now he's only projected at 12.2 fantasy points here in Week 6, but I think he's going to put up 20 plus fantasy points here in this matchup. He's $7,200 DraftKings salary and $200 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game, 54.5 points scored in this game, with the Minnesota Vikings favored by 3.5. So I actually like that his salary is high because that gives him low ownership and makes him a great Millionaire Maker running back. So I like Alexander Madison here versus the Atlanta Falcons. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My Millionaire Maker wide receiver is JuJu SmithSchuster from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Cleveland Browns, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. JuJu SmithSchuster has averaged 15 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6 pass targets per game, and another low ownership pick here. He's going to be under 1% owned, or around 1% owned. He's on the field for 81% of the snaps, projected at 12.3 fantasy points here in Week 6. I think he's going to get 18 fantasy points or more. I think he has a big day this week.
He's 6,600 DraftKings salary and 500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 51 points scored in this game. The Steelers favored by 3.5. Fantastic matchup. I love the stack with JuJu SmithSchuster and Ben Roethlisberger. So I like JuJu SmithSchuster here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, let's take a look at the tight end position. My millionaire maker tight end is Janu Smith from the Tennessee Titans playing the Houston Texans, who have the 12th worst defense overall and they're middle of the pack defending opposing tight ends. Janu Smith has averaged 17.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.8 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 10% owned here, on the field for 82% of the snaps, touches the ball 15% of that time, projected at 11.6 fantasy points here in week 6. He's 5,200 DraftKings salary and 600 more on FanDuel. So this guy's been pretty consistent, getting a ton of volume. He's got 20 plus fantasy point upside. So I like Janu Smith here versus the Houston Texans.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
You've unlocked the bonus content.
Okay guys, here we are in the DraftKings lineup optimizer. Over here on Draft Dashboard, we have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here. We've generated a lineup, so let's see what we got here. We got Ben Roethlisberger, David Montgomery, Alexander Madison, JuJu SmithSchuster, DJ Moore, Odell Beckham Jr., Janu Smith, Eric Ebron, and the Bengals defense. So I like this lineup here. We got plenty of we have plenty of low ownership players. Ben Roethlisberger at 2%, Alexander Madison 1%, JuJu SmithSchuster 1%, and Eric Ebron 1%. So if this Pittsburgh Steelers stack goes off here, you're going to be in fantastic position to jump ahead of the field. Low ownership players that I think all have pretty big upside here in week 6. So I love this lineup. I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later. Okay, so here we are in the FanDuel lineup optimizer over on Draft Dashboard. We have our Millionaire Maker core locked in here and we've generated a lineup. So let's see who we have here. We got Ben Roethlisberger, Alexander Madison, David Johnson, Kenny Golladay, JuJu SmithSchuster, Robbie Anderson, Janu Smith, Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts defense. So I like this lineup here. Mostly high ownership players with the exception of JuJu SmithSchuster, Alexander Madison, and Big Ben coming in at 5% ownership over here on FanDuel. But the rest of the players look all to be over 10% ownership. So you got a nice mix of players here. Let's see if we can upgrade David Johnson. You could go with James Robinson instead of David Johnson if you want to do that. I think I'd go with James Robinson, 21% ownership projected. So this is a pretty solid lineup. Quality players across the board. And if that Big Ben, JuJu SmithSchuster stack goes off, and if Alexander Madison can have a big day, you're going to be in great position with this lineup. So I'm going to save this lineup so I can optimize it later.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.